24 ordinary people showed up that day. Not criminals, not violent people, just regular students who needed some quick cash. A small newspaper ad promised $15 a day for 2 weeks of work. It sounded simple, almost boring, but none of them knew what was about to happen. In just 6 days, some of them changed completely. Not because they were cruel deep down, but because of something much stranger than that. And here's the part most people get wrong. The story you think you know isn't the full one. Not even close. The place was a university basement at Stanford in the summer of 1971. No windows, no sunlight, no real air moving through the halls, just a narrow hallway turned into a fake prison. The cell doors were only painted steel bars, bolted shut. A small closet became the hole used for punishment. 24 young men showed up, one by one, strangers to each other, most of them a little nervous. A coin toss split them into 2 groups. Half became guards, half became prisoners. There were no personality tests, no screening for cruelty, just ordinary people split randomly in half. At first it felt like a game. Prisoners were even arrested at their own homes with real police cars and real handcuffs, just for effect. It felt dramatic, almost like a movie set. Nobody expected what came next. Day 1 felt calm, almost playful. The guards wore mirrored sunglasses to hide their eyes. A small detail, but it mattered later because it made them feel less like people and more like a role. The prisoners wore thin smocks with no names, only numbers. That number became their whole identity. No last name, no job, no story. Just a number stitched onto a uniform. The first night stayed quiet. Then day 2 changed everything. The prisoners got frustrated and blocked their cell door with their own beds. They shouted. They refused every order. And that's the exact moment things shifted. Nobody told the guards to feel angry, they just did. They pushed back harder than anyone expected. No more blankets, no more privileges, extra push-ups in the middle of the night, meals taken away for no clear reason. So how does an ordinary person turn into someone who enjoys handing out punishment? One guard showed the answer faster than anyone else. Other guards nicknamed him after a movie villain. Before the study, he seemed quiet, even forgettable, the kind of person nobody would look at twice. He started inventing punishments nobody had asked for, and forcing prisoners to clean toilets with bare hands, making them repeat their own number over and over for no reason at all. Other guards watched him and slowly copied it. A strange kind of competition started forming, where the prize was who could seem the toughest. Meanwhile, the man running the study wasn't just watching from a distance anymore. He started thinking like an actual prison warden, worried about security and control. Later, he admitted the role had quietly taken over his own thinking too. By day 3, one prisoner broke down completely. He was known only by a number. He wasn't just yelling for attention. This felt different, and everyone in the room could sense it. His voice cracked as he repeated the same disturbing phrase, again and again, like he couldn't stop himself. He said he felt like he was burning up inside. He shook, curled up against the concrete wall, unable to sit still. The other prisoners went quiet, not sure what to do, some of them looking away. Even the guards paused, unsure if this was real or part of the act. The research team watched everything through a small camera in another room. This was supposed to be a controlled experiment with clear rules and a clear endpoint. It didn't feel controlled anymore. Then someone from outside walked into the hallway, a young psychologist who wasn't even part of the study, just visiting to see how things were going. What she saw stopped her cold. Prisoners walked in a line with paper bags over their heads, ankles chained together, shuffling slowly toward the bathroom like it was completely normal. She turned to the lead researcher and told him this had gone too far. That same day, a decision was made. A planned 2-week study ended after only 6 days. What happened in that basement didn't stay there. The story spread fast, first through newspapers, then through college textbooks. It became one of the most cited studies in the history of psychology. People used it to explain war crimes, corporate fraud, even genocide. Professors taught it as proof of one simple idea. Normal situations can quietly take over normal people, no matter how good their intentions were at the start. Years later, it came back during a real military scandal. Photos leaked from a prison overseas, showing shocking abuse of prisoners. The behavior in those photos looked disturbingly familiar to anyone who knew the Stanford story. The same researcher was brought in as an expert, and he said the same thing again. The situation had taken over ordinary soldiers, just like it had taken over ordinary students decades earlier. News outlets around the world repeated that comparison over and over. For years, almost nobody questioned it. For nearly 50 years, this story stood unchallenged. It sat in psychology textbooks all over the world, told almost exactly the same way every time. The lesson seemed simple. Put ordinary people in power, and sooner or later, they turn cruel. Nobody really questioned it, because it fit so well with what everyone already believed. Then one researcher decided to dig deeper. A French academic started going through the original archives, old recordings, handwritten notes, interviews that were never fully published. He spent years tracking down half the original participants, piecing the real story back together. And what he found changed everything. The guards didn't just turn cruel on their own. Before the study even started, they were briefed directly. They were told exactly what results the researchers wanted to see. They were told to make the prisoners feel powerless, and some were even given suggested daily routines to follow. There was an actual printed list of instructions, handed out before the prison doors ever opened. The guards weren't just reacting in the moment, discovering cruelty by accident. Some of them were following a script the whole time. Even that famous breakdown had a hidden layer nobody knew about. Years later, the prisoner behind it spoke publicly about what really happened. He admitted he wanted out more than anything, and he believed a breakdown would guarantee his release. So he leaned into the performance, on purpose, playing the part as convincingly as he could. He later said he was mostly in control the entire time. So what does this actually mean? Was the whole study just staged from the very beginning? The honest answer is more complicated than that. Yes, the guards were guided and pushed in a direction, but each guard still chose how far to take it. Some guards resisted the pressure and stayed fairly gentle the whole time, even with instructions in front of them. Others leaned into cruelty far beyond anything that was asked of them. Nobody forced that extra step, and they chose it themselves, and that difference matters more than people usually admit. Other more carefully designed studies point to a similar idea, without any of the same controversy. One well-known experiment tested plain obedience, nothing else. Ordinary volunteers were told to give increasingly painful shocks to a stranger in another room, simply because someone in a lab coat told them to continue. Most of them kept going, far longer than anyone expected, even when they could hear the stranger in pain. That study has been repeated many times since in different countries, with different people, and the result keeps holding up. Ordinary decent people can still cause real harm. Under one simple condition, someone with authority quietly gives them permission to keep going. Not even a direct order most of the time. Just permission, a uniform, and a title. 24 ordinary people walked into that basement. Some of them changed in just a few days. Not because cruelty was hiding inside them all along, but because circumstances and permission can override personality faster than most people would like to believe. Think about how ordinary each piece of it was. A coin toss, a uniform, a pair of sunglasses, a printed instruction sheet. None of that sounds dangerous on its own, but put them together and under the right conditions, and it becomes something else entirely. That's the part that should stick with you, not the specific prison, not the specific decade, the pattern itself showing up again and again in different places, with different people, wearing different uniforms. The real question was never who could change. It was always about how long it takes and who needs to quietly say it's allowed. If this surprised you, you're not alone. Most people believe they're the exception, that they would never go along with it. Most people are wrong about that, more often than they'd like to admit. But that's not meant to feel hopeless. Knowing the pattern is the first real defense against it. People who understand how easily permission spreads are usually the ones who notice it happening earlier than everyone else around them. And noticing it early is usually enough to stop it before it goes too far.